Any way you might change how you approach the offseason going into this year? I know you talked about kind of reviewing everything. Just what changes might you make to the approach?
I don't have complete concrete exactly what changes are going to be made. Obviously, change needs to be made in some areas. Change is difficult, but sometimes change is good. Obviously, looking back for 4 years, we've had some high points last year. And I'm talking last year we went to the SEC tournament for the first time. I thought there was very minimal high points this year. I think the last weekend was a high point. There's high points individually, but I'm talking collectively in regards to the whole program. There needs to be more high points, more consistency, more sustainability. That was one thing that this team, for whatever reason, didn't do. I haven't shied away from it at all. I'm a straight-up person. I have to look myself in the mirror myself. That's where it starts, with myself at the top, and then it'll trickle down to where changes need to be made in philosophies of everything, of recruiting, of offensive philosophy, pitching philosophy, defensive philosophies. Everything will be looked at by me and has been being looked at by me over the last month and a half.
What have you got from that so far? I guess when you've sort of looked at style of play, or just philosophy, stuff like that, how your philosophy that you've built, throughout your years has sort of meshed with the SEC. What have you come? Is there anything that you've looked at and said, you know what, this works elsewhere, but it might not work here because of the way the rest of the league plays?
Well, for me, nobody will ever change my thought process that's pitching and defense. And we've gotten better each year on the mound. The defense, I felt, let us down early. And I've said this. I think there's reasons for that. Part of it was the way the season started. I heard an interesting comment the other day. Kentucky started their season very bad defensively. Well, Kentucky and us are kind of in the same area when it comes to weather and not getting on a field. But when I look at this league and the teams with the consistency, the LSUs of the world, the Vanderbilts of the world, the past when South Carolina was having a lot of success, those teams are doing it first and foremost with pitching. And then they also have good defenses too. I think we need to be able to drive more balls out of the ballpark. We had a couple guys that did that pretty consistently. We have to be more offensive. Be more offensive in some areas. It wasn't just about that. I think there was, when I look back at this season, at the 50 games we played, I think there was a lot of times that we had opportunities to score runs that we didn't. So I have to look at that. What kind of mentality, or is it the mentality of the hitter hitting, or is it the approach of the hitter hitting? When opponents have runners in scoring position, or things start to start to crumble a little bit, like what's going to happen in this game, is it the players on the field, or is it the mentality that we're not instilling in them, or the details that we're not instilling in? So all those things are going to be looked at through a microscope with me. Obviously, I have a few months before we reconvene as a team in August with a new team, and I will have those answers by then. And I'm not too stubborn. My pride is not in the way. I've been slapped down, to be honest with you. I stand by my success of the past. It was pretty consistent. It was, regionals, World Series, all that stuff, whether I was an assistant or a head coach. And I've been humbled these last 4 years, and it's made me realize that there needs to be some changes in philosophies.
When you talk about just hitting the ball at the ballpark more, do you got to recruit different? I guess, did you maybe, come into this thinking you could put together more of a lineup, maybe more speed-based, more bat handling based? Do you look at it now and say, I got to get more guys that can thump it a little bit?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because the fact, if you look at our lineup, okay, Christian Stewart, I think, hit 15 home runs. Right. Andrew Lee hit 9 home runs. Vincent Jackson didn't have run production when he was playing, and then he gets hurt. Okay, that's a guy, when he was recruiting this program, we thought would be a 10 to 15 home run hitter with his size and everything. Nick Senzel, he started to show it late in the year. Nick Senzel's a guy that should be putting up 8 to 10 home runs every year. So I think the personnel is intact. It's about getting the most out of them. It's just like the pitchers, getting the most out of the pitchers. So I could sit here and say it's the players not doing it. It's all of us not doing it, not being able to reach our potential.
What impact are you expecting from the draft, whether it be for the current roster or the recruiting class coming in terms of what kind of losses were you bracing for?
I don't think I sit in any different spot than every coach in every college coach in America. You don't know what to anticipate out of the draft. You try to educate your players. That was one of the things, going back to John's question, that I talked to about this team, is that no matter how tough this year was, and the fact that I look out to that sign in left field, and this program hasn't been to a regional since 2005, which hurts me to say. This is a great place. They have a great place to come back to if it doesn't work out for them in the draft. We will do our due diligence with our recruits that we have committed, of educating them and alerting them of the opportunities they have here, and if they have confidence in their ability, that things will be okay in 3 years with more maturity. We'll educate our players. But just like in anything in recruiting, I'm not going to strong arm anybody. I'm not going to twist anyone's arm to want to stay here. They're going to have to be here or want to stay here, because I know, without ever playing professional baseball, what the difference is in the two lives. And the life here that they have right now, or the life that our recruits could have here, is light years ahead of the life that they'll have in minor league baseball, unless they're playing in the big leagues. And I know that from past experience with players. It's everybody's dream to play professional baseball, and I get that, and I want their dream to come true. It's just when it's the right day for it to come true.
We've talked a lot about the expectations you had for this team at the beginning of the year. And you've obviously not, you said you wouldn't back down from that you did, you still stand by what you thought about this team. But you sort of maybe, I think we were asked about on the SEC tournament call and talked a little bit about maybe, saying we're talking about regionals or something like that. I guess, do you sort of wish you maybe communicated the expectations you had differently? Or how would you have handled the expectations you had differently in terms of, how you put those out there?
I stand behind my words. I didn't come here to Tennessee for just the job and to put my family in a beautiful community to live in. I came here to get this place back to Omaha. So I have no problem standing behind my words. Did it maybe put too much pressure on a group of young men that have never done something like that? Probably so. Okay. But from day one, when I took this job, that's my goal. That's every coach's goal, or they shouldn't be coaching this. They shouldn't be in this industry. I don't think there's a coach or a team in America that doesn't talk about Omaha. Excuse me. From day one, that's the saying that people have in their locker rooms. That's the saying they do after they get together as a team. So I don't think I was off base by doing that. I saw pieces in place that I trusted, that if we maximized our ability and we developed as a team, that we'd have the capability of doing that. That didn't happen. So my only regret is it didn't happen. I don't regret the fact that I made that comment about this team.
I guess in terms of how you put it to the team, though, I guess, is there anything you would have done differently to ease pressure, I guess, early, or to build less pressure early?
Well, I think the way I didn't walk in day one and said we're going to Omaha. I walked in and talked about the step process, that it's a step process to get there. You got to get to the SEC tournament first. You got to be successful in that and have a good enough record. You got to win a regional. You got to win a super regional and get to Omaha. It's I don't. From day one, I wasn't saying we're going to Omaha, guys. I said this team has the capabilities of going to Omaha. So again, I don't go back on my wording on that.
You said that you've been humbled a bit. What are the challenges of this program, winning this program? How are they different than what you expected going in?
I think just the lack of winning tradition, building the culture of winning tradition. I come from nothing but that. I've been very lucky in my career, whether as a player or as a coach, an assistant or a head coach. I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of winning programs. And I know how winning programs put their uniform on every day. They put their uniform on with expectations that they're going to win. I could compare it to Cal State Fullerton. Irvine was a little different because it was a little bit like this when I took it over. At Cal State Fullerton, there's not a player that comes in that doesn't believe he's going to Omaha at least one time in his career, whether it's a 3 or 4 year career. And they had a streak going for many years where that was happening. That's hard to say here right now. We've got to get it. We've got to get it to that point. And I think if you look around every program in this league, they've all had a different way of getting to where they're getting. You look at Ole Miss. They took years to get back to the World Series, and they finally got there. You look at how humbling this league is. One of the teams that we swept on the last weekend, Mississippi State, with the tradition they have. They were the College World Series runner-up just 2 years ago, and in this season, they don't even make it to our conference tournament. That'll tell you a little bit about how you can flip and turn upside down in this league in a real hurry.
Yeah, obviously,